3 weeks into hurricane season, a tropical system strikes the Gulf Coast, bringing with it heavy rain, strong winds, and a warning of what could lie ahead.
I feel like this will be a year of bad storms.
Tropical Storm Cindy, a reminder that anyone can be a target.
I think this storm is kind of maybe a wake-up call for everyone.
9 years since Hurricane Ike. Many remember the devastation.
It was awful down here. It looked like a war zone.
Others new to our area have never experienced the force of a powerful tropical threat.
Hurricanes are the biggest disaster that we face.
Tonight, Kprc Channel 2's severe weather team helps get your family and your home ready for whatever Mother Nature sends our way next.
It is worth taking the time now to make those preparations.
This is your Hurricane and Flood Survival Guide 2017.
Hello, I'm Channel 2 Chief Meteorologist Frank Billingsley. Tropical Storm Cindy was primarily just a rainmaker for parts of the Gulf Coast, but the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration predicts there's much more to come this season. The agency predicts 11 to 17 tropical storms, 5 to 9 hurricanes, and 2 to 4 major hurricanes with winds of at least 111 miles per hour. We can't predict, though, where those violent storms will strike, so it's important to prepare. Houston's weather has been anything but quiet over the past couple of years. We've dealt with major flooding, and portions of our area have been hit hard by tornadoes. And while Tropical Storm Cindy targeted the Gulf Coast just this week, one thing we haven't dealt with in several years is a major hurricane. At least not since Ike slammed the coast in 2008 with 110-mile-per-hour winds and a 20-foot storm surge. It's been 12 years since Hurricanes Katrina and Rita impacted Louisiana and Texas, and 25 years since Andrew decimated Florida. But as we've shown you this week, a storm doesn't have to be a major hurricane to do major damage. Tropical Storm Cindy caused flooding across several states and tragically claimed at least one young boy's life.
Just because it's not a major hurricane doesn't mean it's not dangerous, doesn't mean it's not deadly.
In our area, Tropical Storm Allison, back in 2001, also formed in the first month of hurricane season. It went on record as one of the most devastating rain events in the history of the United States, claiming 22 lives and causing more than $5 billion in damages in Harris County alone. This year, NOAA officials say they've met their 5-year goal of improving hurricane track and intensity forecasting by 20%. And that means more warning and more time to prepare when a storm is heading our way. But all the time in the world won't do you any good if you don't know how to prepare for a storm. A tropical system or flood can devastate your home in a matter of hours. There are a lot of things that cause flooding, from heavy rainfall to storm surge, and storm surge is one of the deadliest. So let's break it down for you. If this bottom line is your typical sea level line, the second line is your typical tide. Now imagine adding 15 feet of depth to that total. That's your storm surge. And the situation doesn't end there. When high tide rolls in, you could be looking at 17 feet of water above your normal water level. And as you can see here, how that amount of water can stack up against a standard 2-story home. Perhaps no community in our area knows storm surge better than Galveston. Britta joins us from Bishop's Palace, a historic building with a deep tie to the storm of 1900.
This building was built back in 1892. It's one of the few buildings left standing in Galveston after the storm of 1900. And again, it survived Hurricane Ike. Somehow this house stood like a fortress as everything around it crumbled.
September is the peak month of hurricane season and a historic month for Galveston. The deadliest hurricane in U.S. history struck Galveston in September 1900, with an unknown death toll ranging between 6,000 to 12,000 people. Then Hurricane Ike decimated Galveston in September 2008.
That's right where I was standing.
Miles Chapman rode out Hurricane Ike at sea level. He grabbed a piling and prayed.
And I was just holding on for dear life.
Chapman survived. Others on Bolivar weren't so lucky. Storm surge is the deadliest part of a storm, and it's not just a problem if you have beachfront property. Because the Gulf Coast is connected by bays and bayous, storm surge can cause catastrophic damage far inland.
So someone who lives 10 miles from the beach. If it takes them 30 minutes to drive to the beach, they have no idea salt water could come into their home.
We're talking the Ship Channel, the NASA area, and in a worst-case scenario, the Heights and Montrose areas. New this year, forecasting for storm surge has gotten much more accurate. Beginning with this hurricane season, the National Weather Service will issue storm surge watches and warnings to highlight areas at risk for life-threatening inundation from tropical systems.
We're using a scalpel instead of a sledgehammer to help pinpoint and more precisely define who is going to get hit.
We've recently moved into our brand new broadcast facility. Here we have top-of-the-line tools and technology to forecast weather in the Houston area every day. The National Hurricane Center is also changing the way its meteorologists forecast to keep you safer. Justin Stapleton takes you inside what's new this year.
As Britta mentioned, one of the biggest changes for our area this year is that we're now going to be able to see storm surge watches and warnings. Here are three more big improvements.
First, as we saw this week with Tropical Storm Cindy, the National Hurricane Center will not wait for a tropical cyclone to be named before issuing advisories or warnings.
And in the past, we've not been able to issue forecasts and put out those warnings until the storm actually formed.
With Cindy, the storm was named Tuesday afternoon, but watches were already posted one day earlier. The National Hurricane Center found that waiting for a storm to form really doesn't give people enough time to get ready.
If we think it's going to have an impact within the next 2 days, we'll start issuing our advisories and warnings right then.
Number two, have you ever wondered when the worst will hit me? As we saw with Cindy, we got a better idea, all thanks to the rolling out of the tropical storm wind arrival times. And number three, a smaller cone of uncertainty. You can thank that to improve forecasting. The cone is actually now 10% smaller. It gives us a better idea of just where that storm might go.
When a hurricane is headed our way, do you evacuate or do you ride it out? Well, it's difficult to forget the problems caused by evacuations ahead of Hurricane Rita. In September 2005, drivers clogged the roads trying to get away from the coast, causing traffic jams that stretched for miles. Some deaths even occurred during the evacuation. But this year, the Houston area has new evacuation zone maps and new procedures designed to help ease congestion and get people to safety. During Hurricane Rita, before the wind picked up and the waves crashed along Galveston Bay, more than 1 million people hit the roads, producing a disastrous gridlock.
And this is the backup they're getting stuck in.
So many people unnecessarily evacuated, roads clogged, and what should be a 90-minute trip out of town took at least 22 painful hours. Thousands of people ran out of gas.
And we tried getting gas just to top it off, and they were all out everywhere.
Others were forced to sleep along the highway.
Get up here and there's no fuel, we can't go any further.
And one of the most tragic incidents out of this monster evacuation was the death of 24 Bel Air nursing home residents. Their bus caught fire, exploding on a clogged I-45.
You don't want people evacuating who don't need to be on the road, because then the evacuation itself becomes more dangerous than the storm.
Texans learned tough lessons during Rita that changed our hurricane response. If a mandatory evacuation is ordered, it will happen in 3 zones: A, B, and C. All zones are broken down by zip code. Evacuation orders are issued based upon storm surge threat. If you live in a storm surge area, require electricity for medical purposes, or live in a mobile home, evacuate ahead of the storm.
We allow time for the people in Galveston and Brazoria County and the places nearer the coast to transit our area and get out of harm's way before we put folks on the road.
So, how do you get out?
We have I-45, which we're standing on here, US 59, I-10, and US 290.
And the recently opened Grand Parkway is also part of the evacuation plan. And in a worst-case scenario, the evacuation routes will be turned into contraflow lanes, all lanes reversed to flow outbound. If you need help evacuating because of age, illness, or need transportation, call 211 and you'll be added to an evacuation registry. You have to re-register every year.
Don't wait till the storm's coming and you're 24 hours out, because at that point it will be too late.
When trouble spots develop in the tropics, let us help you stay up to date. Download the free Kprc Hurricane app on your smartphone or tablet. You'll find the checklist to use before a storm heads our way, to the evacuation maps, and much more. And all the information you see here tonight will live in the Hurricane Headquarters section of clicktohouston.com. Coming up, when you ride out a storm at home, choosing the right room can be a matter of life and death.
So based upon what we've seen so far, would this be the best place?
This, for a family of 3 or more, would be a better spot.
Plus, simple ways to prepare children of all ages for severe weather. But first, whether you evacuate or shelter, make sure your home is ready. Trim or remove damaged trees and limbs, and secure loose rain gutters and downspouts. A portable generator can be key in case of power outages. Just remember to keep it outside, away from windows and doors. KPRC's Hurricane and Flood Survival Guide continues next.
KPRC's Hurricane and Flood Survival Guide is brought to you by Mosquito Squad.
When it comes to hurricane insurance, the earlier you make sure you're covered, the better. There's a 30-day wait period between when you buy a flood insurance policy and when it goes into effect. We've talked about how storm surge can be the deadliest part of a hurricane. Another dangerous threat is tornadoes. This year, from Sealy to Sweeney, our area has been hit hard by violent tornadoes. So what is the safest room in your home to hunker down? KPRC Channel 2 meteorologist Cambrell Marshall toured 3 different homes to find your best options.
Rain started coming from the east with a lot of wind. I said, uh-oh.
Chase Cheek lives in Bridlewood Estates near Rosenberg. He was home during a recent tornado outbreak and had to run for safety.
Went and got in the hallway with my dog.
His house and his neighborhood suffered a trail of heartbreaking damage, but he made it out alive. This hurricane season, what will your family do if you're caught in a violent storm?
We have exterior walls all the way around.
Albert DeBolt is a licensed home inspector with G&A Inspections. He has decades of experience framing and inspecting homes. What your families look for when they're trying to find the safest place in their home?
The safest parts are the interior, where you have multiple walls between you and the exterior. Sometimes you don't have the perfect spot and you have to make do with what you have.
Like this one story, U-shaped home in Meyerland. The threats, lots of windows and exterior walls all the way around.
The hallway in the last resort would be a good spot because we have a lot of walls. A better option, we have a closet here, but it has walls all the way around. It gives us structural integrity. We have headers for the doors. They hold a lot of weight.
For added protection, cover your body with a blanket or even a mattress, for example. And for your head, with anything available, your hands or a helmet, and make sure this helmet is in a safe place. Our next stop, a 3-story townhome near Houston's Heights neighborhood. In a tornado, get low, your best bet under a stairwell, but in this home, you can't hide under them. So this half bath is a good option, but take any mirrors off the wall. During a storm, it could fall and break. Glass shower doors and master bathrooms can also shatter around you, so opt for a room without a lot of glass. Our last stop, a 1-story home in Richmond.
Our best bet for this one, this bathroom is excellent. We have the bathtub we can take refuge in, throw a mattress over top of us. We have walls all around us, no exterior windows.
Eric Beeson weathered Hurricane Ike in this home. And he lived in Miami and survived Hurricane Andrew back in 1992.
When one of the windows, the front windows, the boards flew off, my father and I put a mattress up against the whole window structure, and we sort of held it there for a few hours.
Cambrell was on the air all night and day during Hurricane Andrew in Miami as that Category 5 storm made landfall. And as Eric told us, Cambrell really got him through that storm. Now, it's one thing to experience a hurricane as an adult. It's another to get children ready and ease their fears. Britta joins us again with the best ways to prepare your entire family.
I love you this much.
Kelly Wilhoit lives with her husband and 3 young kids in Southeast Houston.
They're all pretty outgoing.
9 years ago, when Hurricane Ike hit, Kelly didn't have any children, lived in Conroe, and didn't need to evacuate.
Bug spray, medication.
But things have changed. She now lives with her family and dogs in a potential storm surge area.
We have a preparedness checklist. I'm working on printing it out, posting it on the fridge for everybody to see.
But a big question for moms and dads, what's the appropriate age to talk to your child?
It's never too early
to talk to your kids about preparation.
Mary Jane Mudd works for the American Red Cross.
It's all about how you communicate with them. So older kids, such as high school kids, you would speak to them about what the evacuation plan is.
Animal crackers.
The tiny ones will look to you, look to parents for their ability to feel safe. You want to avoid words like disaster, big emergency, anything that would bring them fear.
The American Red Cross has a special program called the Pillowcase Project. They go into grade schools, talk about how to prepare for a hurricane. The kids decorate a pillowcase and then put all of their supplies within the pillowcase. They can include their favorite Band-Aids, a bottle of water, even a stuffed animal for comfort.
So far, 9,000 children in the greater Houston area have gone through this program. So what else should be a part of your family's plan? Contact your child's school or daycare and find out their emergency plans. And let the schools know where you'll be in case of an emergency. And make sure grandma or grandpa or another relative who lives outside the state also knows your family's plan.
Makes everything go more smoothly, reduces the anxiety for everybody.
Learning about a hurricane doesn't have to be a chore. There are plenty of fun resources your kids can explore to help make sure every member of the family is ready before a storm starts heading our way. Kids can test their knowledge with the interactive Disaster Master game. It walks them through preparing for and reacting to a series of natural disasters. They can also learn which atmospheric conditions go into creating a hurricane, including wind, moisture, and sea temperature. We've posted links to games, quizzes, and more you can use to get your family prepared at clicktohouston.com/hurricane. Still ahead.
When it comes to flooding, some of the biggest dangers may be lurking beneath the surface.
Eric Brait explains what not to do when it floods. But first, preparing your pets for disaster. Make sure you have pet food, fresh water, and a pet carrier, as well as the animal's vet records in case you have to board them after an evacuation. KPRC's Hurricane and Flood Survival Guide continues next. Tropical Storm Cindy this week brought us rough surf and a few flooded streets. But we've seen devastating and deadly flood events without tropical systems. Memorial Day 2015, 162 billion gallons of water fell on Harris County. Then, Tax Day last year, hundreds more families had to be rescued from homes and cars. You simply can't afford to ignore the warnings. Meteorologist Eric Brait breaks down what not to do when it floods.
It happens quickly. Rain falls, streets flood. Just a foot of water can wash away a car.
Turn around, don't drown. Be safe and live for another day.
First thing not to do, don't drive through floodwaters.
All 8 of the victims who died last year on Tax Day died in their cars. One woman drove into at least 30 feet of floodwaters in this underpass. This is at West Park Drive and Post Oak.
Don't wade through floodwaters unless it's absolutely necessary to get to safety. Floodwater is dirty, filled with germs that can hide hazards like sharp objects or even snakes. So if you have to enter the water and have time to change, don't wear shorts or sandals. Make sure you don't use electricity in a flooded home. If water has gotten into the outlets, you could be electrocuted. Finally, if you evacuate, don't leave the power on. Floodwater can cause a lot of damage or even fire if it gets into live electricity.
Sometimes you can end up driving into floodwaters unexpectedly. So how can you save yourself if you get trapped? A couple of years ago, former Secret Service agent Jim Napolitano gave us 4 steps to escape the water alive, whether you're in your car or outside of it. That information is still very relevant, so we've included it in our online guide at clicktohouston.com/hurricane. Staying safe by stocking up. Still ahead, we put real shoppers on the spot to see if they're ready for a storm.
You know.
But first, Cambrell's back with critical advice about your communication plan.
Make sure you have a hard copy of your important contact numbers, and always make sure you think about how to keep your phone charged. Once the storm passes, don't use your mobile device to watch streaming videos, download music or videos, or play video games, all of which can add to network congestion. Limiting use of these services can help potentially life-saving emergency calls get through to 911.
KPRC's Hurricane and Flood Survival Guide will be right back. Tropical Storm Cindy this week is a reminder that now is the time to make sure you have everything you need if a more serious storm strikes. That includes a waterproof bag, copies of important documents, cash in case ATMs are down, and spare keys. Don't forget prescriptions and toiletries for your family. And if you're using canned goods, make sure you also have a manual can opener. The first step to preparing for hurricane season is preparing an emergency kit for your family. Well, you know, to keep water, non-perishable food, batteries, flashlights, and lanterns on hand. Britta and Justin headed out to test some unsuspecting shoppers on their hurricane IQ.
Hey there, everyone. We're at HEB. I'm here with Britta. Now, Britta, a lot of folks think they know what it takes to be prepared in a hurricane.
So let's put their knowledge to the test. We'd love to give you a $10 gift card if we can ask you a question about hurricane prep. Do you know how much water you need per day per person?
I don't.
1 gallon of water per person per day.
See, she drinks a lot of water, too.
Well, since you drink a lot of water.
I drink a lot of water.
Here's your gift card. Do you know where to shelter if a hurricane hits?
Or in a closet, someplace if you don't have a basement for protection.
Bingo.
Yeah, great job.
Okay.
You nailed it.
If a hurricane were to roll over top of us here in Houston, how many days do you need to be prepared for?
5? 3 to 5 days?
3 to 5 days?
3 to 5 days.
Okay.
Pretty good.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Here's your $10 gift card.
Thank you.
You need a gallon of water for 3 days for each person. It's only me, so it's easy. And food.
Nice.
What do you think about the El Nino analysis of this year?
Okay, from the little ones to our seniors, the Channel 2 Severe Weather Team has every member of your family's safety in mind. The Frank's Free Forecast Weather app has the latest conditions 24 hours a day, and the Kprc Hurricane Guide can be found on our website whenever you need it. Thank you for joining us. We hope the rest of hurricane season stays calm, but if anything develops, we'll be here.